put this story, I feel like the light should be off.
I looked out the window and I saw this great muddy river flowing down toward the heart of the South, and I began to think about what this river meant to the Negro people, how, in a sense, our history was linked to this river. I took my father's letter out of my pocket and began to write down on the back of his letter this poem. The Negro speaks of rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood. My soul is grown deep like the rivers. Ancient, dusky rivers, golden in the sunset, golden in the sunset. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I built my hut near the Congo and allowed me to sleep. Golden in the sunset. Golden in the sunset. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood. Golden in the sunset. Golden in the sunset. Ancient, dusky rivers. Ancient, dusky rivers.
It has not always been easy to hold fast to dreams, but the Negro people believed in the American dream. Now, since almost 100 years of freedom, we've come a long ways. But there is still a long way to go for the Negro and democracy. This is a poem called I Too.
I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh. And I eat well, and I grow strong. Tomorrow I'll sit at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am. I, too, am American. Be ashamed. I, too, am American. Be ashamed. I, too, be ashamed. Am American. I, too, be ashamed. Am American. I, too, am American. company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. See how beautiful I am. See how beautiful I am. Tomorrow I'll sit at the table when company comes. I, too, am American. Hating you shall be a game played with cool hands. Memory will lay its hands upon your breast, and you will understand my hatred. You will understand my hatred.
It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness. It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness. One ever feels this two-ness, an American, a Negro. The history of the American Negro is the history of this strife. The Negro is a sort of seventh son, born with a veil. One ever feels this two-ness, an American, a Negro. This sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. Two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body. The history of the American Negro is the history of this strife.
Beauty, its variety is infinite. Its possibility is endless. Who shall right this well-nigh universal failing? Who shall let this world be beautiful? Who shall restore to men the glory of sunsets? Alain Locke provided one powerful answer to these questions. Black people are charged with writing this universal feeling by demanding the right to beauty in their own lives. What Locke demanded is the right of African Americans to beauty.
All of a sudden, the new heaven and the new earth. All of a sudden, it's a new heaven and a new earth. The sense of self is centered in a new awareness. Infinity is another game. All of a sudden, divine beingness is upon us. Divine beingness. All of a sudden, infinity is another game.
Black people could pursue this beauty without reference to white people or the state of race relations. But it should not have been that surprising a notion that black people had a history, a culture that existed and flourished regardless of whomever they were dropped off with. Locke demanded that artists be able to carve a beauty out of that mean experience without being forced to reference continually the struggle in the streets for citizenship rights. Black people, in other words, were more than simply civil rights. They were a people.
In a new awareness. All of a sudden, the new heaven and the new earth. All of a sudden, it's a new heaven and a new earth. The sense of self is centered in a new awareness. Infinity is another game. Divine beingness is upon us. Divine beingness. All of a sudden, infinity is another game.
For God, for God, for country, for race, land, for land. Take power! Take power! Take power!
They shot the man and they hanged him and then used his body for target practice.
Black people and white people are nowhere related. In my opinion, I think black people evolved from animals. Whites and blacks need to be separated. I don't agree with race mixing. Let them set up their own state where they belong and give them their own homeland.
Take power! For God, for country, for race, land, for land. Take power!
And then the lynch mob began to form in Tulsa. These are some uppity Negroes who need to be put back in their place. And the violence began. the lynch mob rode in, but they also came in airplanes, dropping bombs on Tulsa. African Americans being decapitated, being forced to kneel down and just having their heads severed. Nobody's quite sure what the death toll is. African Americans being decapitated, being forced to kneel down and just having their heads severed. But when you look at the pictures, what you see is an area that had once been thriving. What we say is the American dream, absolutely leveled by the violence, by the lynch mobs, by the airplanes, by the bombs, leveled.
About the ancestors and being cognizant of the fact that whilst we carry their wounds, we also carry their gifts.
You see, for the story, I feel like the light should be off. It's a very interesting story, but it has to begin with me talking about my great-grandmother on my mother's side.
Okay.
Right? So, my great-grandmother was what people would call a medicine woman, a spiritual advisor, what some would wrongfully, maybe rightfully, I don't know, I wasn't there, call a witch doctor. I don't think she was necessarily a witch doctor. I just think she was someone who was very attentive and very good at listening and reading people. And I'll show you why in a couple of examples. Woman came to her for advice, and this woman was going through trouble at home with the husband, basically. And she comes to my great grandmother, and she's like, "Look, things are going pear-shaped back at home. Me and my husband are always arguing. We're getting into huge rowdy arguments. Sometimes he hits me or whatever. Like, yeah, sorry guys, it gets dark." Etc, etc, and she's spilling the story, giving the whole timeline of her relationship to my grandmother. My grandmother's sitting there listening. And then when she's done, my grandmother's like, okay. She's heard her out, and she's like, okay, here's what I can do for you. First, I'm gonna make you a nice tea. You know, she does, she gets the tea like this, right? She gets the tea like this here.
So we're like praying over the tea.
Yeah, praying, blessing it,
Blessing
right?
the tea.
She gives you the tea, you drink it. hears her out again, asks her some more questions, and then she's like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna give you one of these beads. It's like a little bead, like a rosary bead, right?
Okay.
About that size. Every time your husband walks into the house, put the bead under your tongue and come back to me in 2 weeks and tell me what's happened. So the woman takes the bead, which she's probably looking at like, I've got ripped off here. What is this? What's this gonna do for me? 2 weeks go by and she comes back. She bursts through that door with life. She's like, you're not gonna believe this, but it stops. Like, the guy doesn't hit me anymore. We don't argue. Not only that, he's very affectionate now. And so, what happened there? 2 things happened. Number one, my great-grandmother must have been a very good listener. And remember when I said she was giving her the whole story? My great-grandmother realized this woman talks a lot. So, what she opted to do was to give her the bead and to put it under her tongue. Why? When the bead is under your tongue, you're going to want to talk less because you'll be afraid to swallow it. And what else happened? The tea. What about the tea? What was that for? What was all the praying over it for? That's so you can believe in it. You go to her expecting something to happen anyway because of her status and everything you already know about them. That's going to work as a placebo. So when you go home and you've paid your money and you've gone to someone who already has a status or someone that can help you, you're more likely to be in the mindset of wanting to change things anyhow. And she thought of that on her feet. She must have, which is even more genius to me. It seems she was very good at listening and picking up from little subtle cues things about people, nuances. She had an eye for the nuances. And this is a gift of hers that I feel like I've inherited.
Then came the hardest part of all. Into the carefully prepared little bed, the mother put her beloved son. And she left the ark there in the reeds at the river's brink, a lonely little speck beside that great river.
But someday, baby, you feel you feel, but someday, baby, you feel.
I like the concept of the ancestors, and it's a message that's actually been in society and culture for a long while, but unfortunately all of us have kind of forgotten it and forgotten our ancestors, and as a result we've forgotten what really makes up the majority of us. On a scientific basis, we're nothing without our genes, and our genes come from years and years and years of evolutionary history.
Ancestors stay remembered when you tell stories about them.
Yeah.
When nobody's able to tell a story about you anymore, that's when you've died.
Have I spent too much of my life being wrapped up in my own blackness? Have I spent too much of my life?
But God's plans with the baby didn't end here. Walking slowly down toward the banks of the river was one of the most important people in all of Egypt, the Princess of Egypt herself. She saw the strange object almost hidden among the reeds. Whatever could be inside such an odd-looking thing? And then there was the baby. A baby so dear and tender, so innocent and sweet, that some of heaven's glory seemed tangled in his tiny curls. And when the dear little baby started to cry, the daughter of Pharaoh found her heart melting with pity and love.
Yeah, I think I'd say that's maybe one of the gifts I've inherited. I'm very good at piecing together a bad situation that someone's told me and just trying to find a way to bring them at peace with it. I can't always offer you a solution. I can't even necessarily tell you it'll get better. But I can tell you that you can be fine with it.
Right.
You know?